Hello. Hello. We're live. What is up, gamers? Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. Good Lord, we got a lot to talk about today. Chat, I'm trying out something new today. We're just going to talk about stuff today. I have a docket lined up of things that I would like to talk about and share with you all. And that is what we're going to do today. That's kind of the plan. How's that sound? Everybody happy about that? Please say yes. I don't have a backup. There's no backup plan. Hello, NC fan. Hello, Dunsparcius. Started playing Adventures of Elliot recently. Dude, I'm starting that tomorrow, low-key. I hope it's awesome. I just pre-ordered Fortune's Weave Dagding collection. Shout out, Colt. Yeah, it's available again. I don't know if y'all knew that. But, like, you can just get it on the Nintendo store. Like, they just have it there. Like, it's just there. There was mass panic a month ago. Actually, I don't know if it was a month ago. A month and a half ago? 2 months ago? It was kind of recent. I know that much. Anyway. Chat, what's up? Welcome. Happy Wednesday. It's the weekly Wednesday edition. We're back. I do have content planned for the rest of the week. Why am I so red? That can't be good. Maybe it's the lighting. I don't know. I look red when the rest of the room looks blue. It's very odd. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, frankly. Chat, what we're going to do today, we're going to look at some stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff. It ranges. We got some range happening here. Which is very, very exciting. Because there's lots of cool stuff to look at. But something I left off the docket, which I did not want to do, was this. Is this? I wonder if that'll get us taken down. There's only one way to find out. That's right. We're watching some interesting things that may get the stream banned. Not illegal, obviously, but I don't know what's in it necessarily, and I have not pre-checked to see if any of this will will get us cooked or not. So, but you know what? Sometimes things are worth the risk. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta be your own person. Gosh darn it. One of the things is definitely not kosher, I don't think. Like, it technically was a leak. So that is the plan tonight. Very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. We got 9 things on the docket. We're gonna bing bang boom through them. And then that'll be the stream. And that's how we're playing. What's up, Soren? Welcome in, Kratos. Bit of personal news for me, because I do technically have some. So, you guys may recall, I've been in a bit of a job search situation after being laid off due to AI adoption and outsourcing to overseas India workforce. Allegedly. I'll be very clear about that. Allegedly. They technically did not tell me the reason. But based on the initiatives at hand for the company at the time, these are what my assumptions are. Did I get an offer? No. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You see, I spent 6 weeks of my life pursuing a job that, frankly, I was perfect for. And the 4 to 5 people I met with also kind of said the same thing. I woke up, got an email today. They are no longer pursuing the position. They are pausing the hiring for the position. So I've lost 6 weeks of stressing and 5 hours of interviewing that I will never get back, unfortunately. But they just said, hey, position's on pause, bro. Good luck. Hey, good luck out there. Good luck out there. Ah. Bro, this shit should be illegal, straight up. They should at least pay me for the amount of time they stole from my life. That's how I feel about it. But for the record, everybody I met was really nice. And we clicked really well, I thought. I was never given an indication that that was not the case. They put me through like 4 different interviews at least. So I assumed that that would be the the truth on their part as well. The other one where I'd have to travel from time to time, yes, the hush hush one that I can't really talk about because it may or may not be government related work. You know, I actually had an interview about that today. It was interesting. But it's also just like a contract gig. And if I may be somewhat transparent, it felt very different interviewing as someone who would be a contract versus an in-house hire. It felt different. Like the vibe was definitely different. And that is as much as I'd like to say about that particular position for now. I was I think I can say this without any prejudice. I was told that I would not be and I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I'm not verbatim reciting what they had said. But the individual that I was interviewing with, who I believe would be the hiring manager overall, said that I would more or less not likely be their first pick because I was remote. And they wanted somebody in person in that area. But they will keep my resume in mind. And I was like, oh, okay, totally, yeah. I was also told it would be an hour. I think they were ready to wrap it up after 20 minutes. So perhaps it was just a very efficient interview. Perhaps they didn't really want to waste a lot of time on me, knowing they would rather hire someone else who could be there in person when I am like 15 hours away from them by car. So I don't know. Yeah, no, tough to say. So yeah, I think it was okay. The person I spoke to was nice enough, though. You know, it was all right. I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one, though, for what it's worth. But I have another interview tomorrow because someone had sent me an email about the job. Another one that I'm also like pretty qualified for. It was very much on par with the one that I was told was on pause today. And I actually applied to them both within like the same week. Like a month ago. So we'll see. I almost missed it because the email came back in my inbox and was like buried and not flagged as like a normal mail. It was flagged as like promotion, or you know how like Gmail has those weird tabs where it breaks it into like, I guess, normal social promotion, like that stuff. It got flagged as just not being a normal email, so it wasn't in like my standard view. I don't know why these companies think they're helping when they sort your stuff for you. Just like give me a feed. just let me see my emails so I don't miss anything, you know? I don't know why they think they're being helpful when they intentionally filter things that I'm not trying to. I don't need their AI to tell me what, like, this is a different category than like standard email. Anyway, I almost missed it because they had emailed me on Monday, turns out. So I frantically emailed them this morning. And they got back to me like same day. So that was cool. So I have something set for tomorrow afternoon for that. So there's still irons in the fire. The problem is it's just really friggin' stressful for me doing all the interview. The work part is easy. I can do that. I've been doing that. Decade under the belt. You know what I mean? Got it on lock. The interviewing and talking to new people, that is difficult. That is my biggest hurdle. Because look, some of y'all are old heads. You've been in here a while. I don't make a great first impression sometimes, you know, a little bit hit or miss on that one. But I think over time, people learn that I'm okay, you know, I'm all right. But it's that first initial jump that I typically have the biggest hurdle. So we're hoping, because my separation payout ends next month. I have 2 more payments of my salary, and then things get real uncomfortable. So We're really hoping that something happens. Because I still haven't heard back from that bookstore for the $12. It was literally $12 an hour for 12 hours a week. So I don't think that one's gonna go well either, frankly. So I'm not sure where I stand in the employment sphere. I'm too overqualified to do anything but what I was doing, and also somehow unqualified to do things I've been doing for almost a decade. Also, sometimes the job just disappears while they're hiring for it. Which, that's fucking crazy. Anyway, that's what I got for y'all. There was a woodchuck in my yard. That was the other fun little tidbit of news. Hold on. Allow me to show you. I took a picture somewhere. So if you're unaware, in Virginia, they're having like crazy rain currently, but we're also in the drought. We've gotten 50% less rain. Good thing they're building all those data centers, because they actually supply more water than they use, which is really great. So my backyard, half of it is mowed because my batteries ran out of my lawnmower the other day. And I haven't been able to mow it because it keeps raining. And when it rains, it gets wet. And it gets wet, I can't mow. Because when it gets wet and I mow, it clogs the lawnmower. And then I can't, the blade no work anymore. There's nothing I can do. So half of my backyard is really just a fun little jungle gym for critters to hang out in. So this is, I've named him, Paul. I'm very blue now. This is Paul. Shout out Paul, the groundhog. He's chilling, or was chilling. He was just getting some big old grass, is what he was doing. I'm also really hopeful he's not the one that dug a giant hole next to the foundation of our house. Really hoping that wasn't Paul. But we'll see. We'll see. That's another thing I gotta figure out, because I actually don't know how far down that went. I don't really need any foundational issues right now. You know what I mean? That's one of the last things my individual person needs right now. So, anyway, shout out Paul the groundhog, or woodchuck, yeah, whatever you want to call him. Anyway, that's news from me. That's what I got for y'all. Let's get into the new stuff that I have seen buzzing about my feed for the last week or so. But I haven't had a chance to actually investigate yet. Actually, wait, we could do this right now. Hell yeah, wait. Pause. Since we're kind of talking about sad news, we can hop over here. Let me give you a cleaner view here. There we go. All right. Sad news continues to befall us all. A couple days ago, Tides of Annihilation put out an update. If you're unaware of Tides of Annihilation, it was going to be one of my most anticipated games of this year. You have what I thought was a pretty stellar cast. It seemed to be a pretty badassery type of Souls-like, but Arthurian in nature. All pretty cool stuff. And Jennifer English was at the helm. Unfortunately, she has stepped down, which is sad. She removed herself from the role. So I knew that she removed herself, but I haven't read the full statement, so I wanted to go through it now. We have some sad news to share that Jennifer English will be stepping away from her role as the English voice of Gwendolyn, the main protagonist in Tides of Annihilation, due to personal health reasons. She will continue to support the project in an advisory role. And then this is when I stopped reading because my day got infinitely sadder. Early in June, Jennifer informed us she would no longer be able to continue the role. While we were, of course, saddened by her decision, we completely understood and respected Jennifer in prioritizing her well-being. We are also deeply grateful for the care and responsibility she showed throughout this process. Because she's classy, bro. During this transition, Jennifer remained incredibly supportive and, together with the members of our voice cast, helped us identify and connect with talented performers who could carry Gwendolyn forward while staying true to character. So she helped fill the role. Like, she gave recommendations on who she thought could fill the role. But I'm assuming they're not doing, like, a voice match situation. Right? Like, they're gonna completely re-record all of Gwendolyn's lines. Surely. Which, I'm realizing now, some of you may not be aware of who Gwendolyn is, or Jennifer English, rather. Jennifer English was in, she was Mael in Expedition 33, which all of you should be pretty darn familiar with, because we played it here on the channel. She also voices a character in Wuthering Waves. Likes crystals, very short, 2 bang bang guns. You know the one. Anyway, it's cool that she's like filling the role, I guess, or helping to fill the role. Yes, she's not just like leaving them from nothing. Although it is pretty bare bones, I assume, if you're gonna re-record everything. We've been fortunate to find an incredibly talented performer to carry Gwendolyn forward. Her recent work in video games left a strong impression on both Jennifer and our team, not only for the performance itself, but for the remarkable care and dedication she showed in understanding the character, and we're excited for players to experience her interpretation of Gwendolyn. An incredibly talented performer to carry Gwendolyn forward. Recent work in video games left a strong impression on both Jennifer and our team. Recent work. Okay. If you guys have an idea of who this is, let me know. But the brain in my head says that this had to be like a recent breakout role within the last year or two, maybe. And it's obviously someone that Jennifer is aware of and acquainted with. I don't know. But that's cool, I guess. Also seems kind of convenient that they're capitalizing on recent popularity. I guess you kind of have to, because low-key, Jennifer English has had a stellar last year plus, honestly. Like, she's kind of on, like, crazy trajectory, which I guess also kind of makes sense that she would be stressed out and not in the best way of health to be able to continue working at the pace she's at, if she just took on too much stuff or something. She is currently recording Gwendolyn's English performance for our upcoming Gamescom 2026 hands-on demo. Ah, okay. I don't know when Gamescom is, but I feel like it's soon. Like September, maybe? Players will hear her performance for the first time in the demo this... Oh, it's in August. Shout out. As well as the select official updates shared across our channels during the same period. We'd also like to thank Jennifer for everything she brought to the character and to the project. Her performance brought depth, strength, vulnerability, and heart to the role. We have truly enjoyed this journey together and wish Jennifer all the very best. And most importantly, good health and happiness in whatever comes next. To our players, we thank you for your continued support and understanding. We're truly grateful to have you on this journey with us. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of like positive comments on here. I won't scroll too much because I will say I first found out that this was happening. Not the full context of all of this, mind you, but just that she was stepping away for health reasons on Twitter. And when you find out things on Twitter, you usually get a lot of context of a lot of assumptions that are oftentimes very wrong. And one of the common recurring things I saw in the comments for the little snippet with the little clip post that happened was that they let her go because how do I put this delicately? A lot of her stances on being not heterosexual were performative. I think that's the polite way of putting it. That was some people's interpretations online. Or gay baiting, I guess, is what common vernacular may call it. Which is obviously ridiculous, right? Like, I don't know why we always have to make this about some sort of like weird reason. If someone doesn't feel up to par, they're allowed to step away from workload. That's one of the benefits of being an individual who works for themselves. They can tailor their workload to their choosing to live their best life. Okay? Don't go spreading lies just because you're jealous. Twitter, okay? So there was a lot of slanderous, or is it libel? There was a lot of incorrect information being assumed on a lot of posts, and that the studio actually cut her because her viewpoints weren't marketable, and that it's all a bunch of garbage, obviously. But I'm glad to see that a lot of the comments on the YouTube post were positive. Frankly, I shouldn't have expected more from Twitter. If I'm gonna be real about it. But I'm always hopeful that they will turn the tide. No pun intended there. But I'm sad because I really like Jennifer English's performances. I think she's very talented. The most recent experience I had with her was in Expedition 33, obviously, and the performance she gave in that game was ridiculous. Okay, her as Mael was crazy, and obviously the role itself was like the character, the writing for that character was insane, right? So there was a lot of depth to discover there, but she did it very well, and consequently won a bunch of awards and all this other stuff too. Not surprising to anybody with half a brain cell that's still functioning. So I'm sad that she departed from the project. On a personal level, I'm also kind of bummed because I drafted this for our fantasy league that I'm running, and now I'm definitely dropping that because there's no way that this game comes out this year. There's just no way it comes out this year, genuinely. But I hope that she does well and that she recovers and that everything is okay with her in her life. And I'm, I, there's this thing in America, right, where you just kind of fight through it. You sacrifice your own physical and mental health for the sake of the dollar. Um, and as someone who has kind of like gotten their head above water and seeing how incredibly unhealthy that kind of mindset is, shout out late stage capitalism, that I appreciate when people know that they're in too deep and they need to take a break and separate a little bit, right? Uh, so that is good. On that note, that is good, and I'm glad that she's doing that. I am interested to see who they're gonna get to replace her. It's obviously not a voice match situation. They pretty much said everything's getting re-recorded. But I guess we're gonna find out pretty soon here because as of this, it's July 22nd. So we'll have demo lines for Gamescom next month, and I guess we'll find out then. But it's got to be somebody who's been recently on the come up. Otherwise, I feel like instead of saying like her recent work, they would have said something along the lines of her legacy of work. You know what I mean? Like if somebody has a breadth of catalog under their belt, they probably would reference that with some kind of like gusto. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But I'm excited to see who's replacing her. I'm still excited for the game. I do play games oftentimes for the cast and the developers who are actually working on the game, not just the source material of the project itself. But Arthurian stories as well is also kind of cool because I don't get to play a lot of that kind of stuff. So I was looking forward to this regardless. And now I guess we just have more to look forward to. And I was kind of wondering why we hadn't gotten any kind of update on this, especially during like Summer Game Fest and stuff that had happened kind of recently. But I guess now we kind of know that they were sitting on this for about 2 months. But it's sad to see, I guess. But I'm glad that she's taking care of herself. And I think those are all the thoughts that I have about that. Sad. Game is still fire though, for what it's worth. What's the Beyond the Tides? What is this? Hold on. Pause, champ.
This is Chengdu, China, where Tides of Annihilation was created for game creators. This city is full of inspiration. When
Okay.
you're in Chengdu, watching Chinese opera is a must.
For the music?
Not quite. For the action.
Just like our game.
That's it. Action combat worth watching. Another signature of Chengdu, Hot Pot.
Wait, why 2 broths in 1 pot?
One is like a boss fight, bold and intense. One feels more like an exploration, meant to be savored.
Anybody else feel like we're stretching a little bit here? Low key, I kind of feel like we're stretching a little bit here. Oh, let me get y'all the full screen. There we go.
Sounds a lot like our game demo.
Right. One game, 2 ways to experience it. Play at your own pace. Playing Mahjong in Chengdu is all about choices. What combo to build, when to hold, and when to make your...
Okay. We're going to start this over. Maybe I'm not giving it enough due. And it's only like 80 seconds. So it's not like we've lost a big chunk of our life. But I fail to see how this correlates to Tides of Annihilation at Gamescom 2026. This feels like a very loose interpretation.
This is Chengdu, China, where Tides of Annihilation was created for game creators.
Okay, so this is where it was made. The birth of Tides of Annihilation. Good. Yes.
The city is full of inspiration. When you're in Chengdu, watching Chinese opera is a must.
For the music?
Not quite. For the action.
For the action, not the opera, watch the opera, not for the music, but for the action. Okay.
Just like our game.
That's it.
I'm not getting that sense.
Another signature of Chengdu, hot pot.
Wait, why two broths in one pot?
One is like a boss fight, bold and intense. One feels more like an exploration, meant to be savored.
Sounds a lot like our game demo.
Right, one game.
So the game demo is like the broth. Game demo is the broth. I got it. Okay. Game demo broth. Got it. But there's one demo and two broths. This is still feeling like a stretch.
Two ways to experience it. Play at your own pace.
Until the timer runs out, frankly, because a demo, there's cutoff. You know, you can't just endlessly explore in a demo, to be fair about it. You know, maybe we're at the halfway mark. Maybe they bring me back in the second half.
Playing Mahjong in Chengdu is all about choices. What combo to build, when to hold, and when to make your move.
I get it now? You are talking about our combat system?
Exactly. Your choices shape the fight. Some invitation and when to make your move.
I get it now? You are talking about our combat system?
Exactly. Your choices shape the fight.
The lady voice kind of sounds like AI a little bit, and the inflection is kind of weird. And I'm trying really hard not to focus on that, but it's difficult. Like, really difficult to not stop hearing it. Okay. Your choices shape the fight. Okay. Like whether you win or lose because you can be too aggressive and too hasty versus being patient and timely. I think you're just describing most boss fights now.
Some invitations take time. Some seats stay reserved, anticipating the right persons to arrive. Our journey starts in Chengdu, and the next stop isn't far away. From Chengdu to Cologne.
I need to understand the thing about the chairs again.
The fight. Some invitations take time. Some seats stay reserved, anticipating the right persons to arrive. Our journey starts in Chengdu, and the next stop isn't far away.
Waiting for the right person. Is this like weirdly alluding to the fact that they recast Gwendolyn? And then now the game is delayed, and so the seat is reserved? Y'all, I'm trying real hard to find the deeper meaning here. I don't get it, though. I'm lost. The whole script feels slightly AI generated. You know what?
From Chengdu to Cologne.
Perhaps it's just really poorly translated. Maybe it makes a lot of sense in the native language it was written. Um, I do harken back to what was ultimately not that one. This thing here. They put this out for the new year. And I wasn't sure if this was AI at the time. I want to say it's not. But like some of the expressions and stuff were a little bit off-putting. But I'm also really bad at being able to tell if something's AI or not. Observatory Greenwich Dew Chocolate Collection. I guess it's probably not, right? Otherwise, some of these words would be misspelled. Like, surely some of these things would be misspelled, right? One Royal Observatory. Fate of Camelot is in their hands. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's not, because I never really thought to look at the wording before. Well, obviously, if it was generated, it would be kind of funky looking, right? Yeah. It definitely can't be AI, for sure. There's no shot those words look that clear otherwise. Have you heard all the controversy regarding Love in Deep Space? No. What's up with Love in Deep Space? Isn't that the Gooner game for ladies? Or just those who enjoy the men? I'm unfamiliar. What happened? Uh, it looks like there was a new character that was going to be introduced, and then they pulled that character or something. Chinese government indicates new love interest is gone for good. Is it that? And the wording reference of a domestic violence incident, so they shot themselves in the foot with their marketing. What? What? Maybe we just shouldn't have Gooner games like across the board. You know what I mean? Respectfully. Actually, let's just ban mobile games. Hey, who's with me? Let's just get rid of all gotcha games. Am I right? Let's all put some extra dollars in our pockets. Who needs them? This is on July 8th. kind of recent. What else do we want to look at? Let's look at, while we got some game trailers happening. Whilst that is happening. There is a new one that came out literally today, which is kind of hype. That and Monster Hunter now. What did Monster Hunter do? Oh. I see. I didn't read it in order. I got all worked up for nothing. I've been playing Digimon recently. It's been taking over my life, which is impressive considering it's an idle game. Monster Hunter made you walk outside for 5 hours straight the other day. Were we raging? Is that what happened? Were we working through a bit of gamer feelings? Because that's okay. That happens. Oh, it's a Pokemon Go like. I got you. You were literally walking outside. Well, that's good though. That's a good thing. I think. I would assume that's a good thing. Okay. New Langrisser Sea of Sword. If y'all don't know Langrisser, it's like Fire Emblem. But like less popular. And I also think it's been around about the same amount of time. Anyway, we got a new gameplay trailer that came out today. And I want to say this is a gacha game? Or not. I really don't know anything about it. Seems intense. This is giving gacha game. Like, it's Fire Emblem, but the armor feels much more Grand Blue-esque. Is kind of how I would describe it. Why does... That's a really bad spot to pause. Why does this look like an Atlas game? Like, I'm getting Unicorn Overlord art vibes. Okay, so this is Unicorn Overlord? Dude, this straight up looks like Unicorn Overlord. Bro, please don't be a gacha game. Oh, it's 100% a gacha game. I saw the camp. Oh, 100% that's a gacha. Maybe not. Ice Bridge. Shout out. Dude, the soundtrack kind of bangs, though. Oh, that's far too gooey. That looks far too gooey. Okay, I'm on board. I'm actually on board. Dude, that track was banging, man. Are you kidding me? It's just on Steam? Okay, now I have to know. Is it a gacha game? Oh, it's a free-to-play tactical RPG that heavily features gacha mechanics. No. Oh, but it's a grid-based strategy series. Yeah, all right, fair enough. It was giving, but like it looked enough like something I could foresee on like console that maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. It is. Tragic. I'll probably pick it up. Honestly, it looks really good. It looks um it's very giving of Unicorn Overlord. Is it Vanillaware? Are they the ones that make that? I don't remember who made it. I just know it's good. And I like what I see. And I see what I like. But currently it's only on Steam, which I'm not gonna lie to you, is vastly unappealing to me because I don't like sitting in my computer and playing games. I'm a TV and console guy. That's just kind of how I am. But the game looks awesome. Um, just like visually, it's very stunning to me, and the soundtrack is bang so far. So it will be on my radar, and I look forward to whatever it is. Did we have a date? I don't think we had a date. It just says wish list now. Yeah. No date. Tragic. When is it? When is it coming out? We do not have a date yet. As of 7 hours ago, when it received its first details. Great. Okay. Well, that's when the article came out anyway. Guess I could just check the Steam page, but then I'd have to log into Steam, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, it looks good. It looks cool. I'm down to check it out, but I hate this another gacha game. Also, I'm pretty sure there's already a Langrisser gacha game, isn't there? There's a Balatro clone called Wordplay. Oh, interesting. People are still cloning Balatro, huh? That's tight. Mika Chameleon is like all the rage to clone these days, based on what I've seen. Or Mecha Chameleon. Oh, it's been around for a year. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. All right. What else we got? Oh, since we literally just watched something on Gacha Games, we got two more that are pretty clean transitions here. Since we're just watching trailers, Because, you know, we'd be reacting right now. Recently, we got some Kingdom Hearts news that I don't think people were anticipating, at least not in 2026, or what they thought. Seemingly, allegedly, the Kingdom Hearts Missing Link intro cinematic leaked or something. And if you're unaware, Kingdom Hearts Missing Link was the Kingdom Hearts mobile game that got canceled a couple years ago, I want to say. So really weird that it would just show up now. I don't know how it happened. I think it was originally on Twitter that it came out. But I also haven't seen it, and I don't know if it's going to take the stream down. So we're just going to watch it and roll the die. Okay. We're deep space diving. We're deep sea diving. We're in the water. The water of our memories. His helmet makes him look like a tiger a little bit. Oop. That's a big Heartless. And we're still underwater? Did he just crush that dude? Oh no. Yup, they sure did. Why are you going back, bro? Oh. Oh. Okay, nice. What? Hey, yo, hold up. Is that where Sora is now in Kingdom Hearts 4? That looks an awful lot like the place Sora ends up, no? Where we find him? I mean, it could just be a cityscape. Bro, I don't know about that. Bro, I don't know about that. Dude, it might be the same. Was this supposed to be the prequel to Kingdom Hearts 4? Were they trying to make the prequel to Kingdom Hearts 4 like a cruddy little gacha game? Like low key? Dude, it looks. The buildings look pretty similar. Well, I guess here they don't. But if you go back just a smidge. Enhance. Zoom. Like these kind of buildings, they look pretty similar. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's a stretch to say. Curious. I don't really know a whole lot about I don't really know a lot about the Missing Link game itself, but it's cool that we got to see the cinematic. I have no context for what we actually just saw. But some of this looked absolutely ridiculous. Also, we're somehow fighting underwater in spacesuits, but they're like scuba. And there's also stars and keyblades. And fire. A baffling combination of things. Anyway, we'll never know. But the opening cinematic was kind of cool. These guys look awesome. Anyway, maybe they'll incorporate parts of it into Kingdom Hearts 4. I don't know. Weird. It does abruptly cut off, though. Like in a crazy way, it abruptly cuts off. Almost off-putting in a way. Wait, did we miss it? Wait, this is saying full. Oh, extended. Wait, it doesn't cut off. I've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. There's a full there's a whole 2 minutes we didn't know about. Is this all the same? Okay, this is all the same fighting. Wow, it's crazy low resolution. This is all the fighting that we saw. And then we fall. Okay. And then that's when it cut off before. Oh, so we were underwater because that happened because of the Heartless. Maybe. And now everything's returning to normal because the temporal disturbance has been handled. It's been dealt with. And now we're just in real world again. So I think this is the same place that Kingdom Hearts 4, like that. I think it could be the same thing. Cube. Cube. Lots of signs that say cube. Okay, a lot of lab coats walking around. That looks like a Final Fantasy XIV class. Is that gonna be Mickey Mouse? This is a city of light and darkness, dreams and distortion, a metropolis, Scala ad Caelum. That's Latin. Stairway to Heaven. Shout out. Latin. Took it 2 years in college. Didn't know what it said. Did recognize it was Latin. Bro, this straight up looks like a class out of Final Fantasy XIV. Like, legitimately. Crazy. Yo, the building's shaped like a heart, too. The continuity alone, y'all. That's crazy. Okay. Low key, I'd have played that. But knowing them, they would have only released it in Japan. Because I'm pretty sure Kingdom Hearts has had at least one mobile game that was only inside Japan. And oddly enough, it did have like critical intel in it. Which is kind of crazy to do that. Kind of soft locking everybody out of being able to enjoy all the lore in the game. But that's cool. I get so we have like a little bit of extra context, I guess, because that definitely seems like it could be the same city that we find Sora in the initial Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer that we saw. Well, I guess the two. They're kind of the same trailer, but slightly different. They gave us a second one to make sure that we knew that we hadn't forgotten about this. So, but that's cool. What could have been? We'll never know. The city known as the Stairway to Heaven. Tragic. I'm glad I found that extra video, though. That would have been awful. Imagine not having the additional context. That'd be crazy. There's a comment that says the irony of Missing Link being the one and only Kingdom Hearts game that we're aware of that actually got canceled. True. The name is very lore heavy. It's legitimately the missing link to the franchise. That's wild. All right. While we're on gotchas, y'all know. Actually, I should wait here. I should wait until we have some context. You all know that I love Wuthering Waves. You all may also know that I have not had the best experience in Wuthering Waves so far. Nothing personal, it just runs like butt. So I was interested to know if it had something to do with like the data condensed packaging that they did. I don't know. They saved up a bunch of space. Lord only knows what can go wrong when they do that with how they bundle something. But 3.5 was also the debut patch for Xbox. So, as I do not have an Xbox, I was wondering how it ran. Turns out, terrible. So I would like to find out what exactly runs so poorly vis-a-vis Wuthering Waves and Xbox.
I recently made a video regarding the release of Wuthering Waves for the Xbox, showcasing what you need to know for new players. And overall, the start of the game plays okay, but the later seasons
That's my queen right there.
are another story. I recently tested Lahairoi from version 3 and Shuangfeng from the latest version 3.5, and these are the results. So on top of both the Series X and S, I also tested the game on...
I have no idea what an X or an S is. Are they not all just Xbox? This is why Xbox has failed.
Xbox Cloud Gaming, and the results were pretty similar. Now what's nice about Xbox Cloud is that they have an FPS counter which you can activate, which shows
the
frame rate in real time.
He's hitting 60.
The game performs about the same as my initial benchmark in my original video, and this includes bosses, as you can see here. Again, we get average drops from about 55 FPS to 60 FPS. But then I took my talents to South Beach, known as Lahairoi, and this place is very demanding for the Xbox platform.
Dude, I haven't even gone back to Lahairoi yet. I mean, we left Lahairoi. We didn't really spend a lot of time there. I feel like I should go back and just see if it also runs like butt. Because y'all know I had glitches, I had fatal errors that caused just entire shutdowns of the game. It's not pleasant, and I was playing on PC. For what it's worth, PS5 also not super great.
Now, as you might know, Xbox Cloud Gaming runs on Series S power, so expect the same performance for this game while playing on Xbox Cloud Gaming.
I don't know what that means.
Now, I took a stroll through the city and rode the fast travel points, and the FPS drops were real.
Oh, yeah.
I dropped down to the 30s during this test. Now, here's the fun part. Just after this, I started a conversation and the game crashed on me.
24. 20. Woof. Oh, no, dude. It's crazy to me that they haven't publicly, like, apologized for how butt 3.5 is in terms of performance. 3.5, as far as, like, story and characters and worlds and everything, like, I love the new area. I have my gripes about the story being, like, probably an extra 90 minutes longer than it should have been. But that's with, like, most gacha games. Like, they drag the story out to up their, average playtime and blah, 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 whatever. But, like, functionally, 3.5 just feels different. It feels like a different game as someone who's been playing it since launch daily. It feels worse somehow. But he also ran into a fatal error. Shout out.
I've been playing on Xbox Cloud Gaming for over 5 years now, and this error has never happened to me.
Yeah.
Out of memory.
I've never, for what it's worth, I've never had a fatal error on PC for Wuthering Waves in general. There is a weird thing on PlayStation where if you're like doing one of those missions where you have to like take a picture with your camera and it like loads in to save the picture. I never saved the picture, but there's a chance that it could stutter and like fail out, and then you have the game like reboots or something. That has always been like a known thing for PlayStation. I think that's a hardware thing though, frankly.
Trying to allocate a texture. Are you serious? Granted, I was expecting some frame drops, but nothing like this. This is crazy. So, because I've got this error, I just had to try this directly on the Series S to see if it happens directly on the Xbox. I wanted to make sure it wasn't an Xbox Cloud thing. So here's the benchmark of Lahairoi directly on the Series S.
We had a little spike there.
I took a casual stroll using the fast
That's the only one though.
Throughout the city. And this FPS is much worse than you get early in the game.
Yeah.
Now, this is just the Series S, and I haven't tested this on the Series X yet, But since both Xboxes performed very similarly during my initial test, I wouldn't doubt that this would tank the Series X as well.
So, again, I've had my gripes on both PlayStation and PC. The only time I've ever had an issue was 3.5 on PC. I've never really had a PC issue other than like literally that first week of launch when there were 80 billion bugs that they patched like immediately. Okay. Outside of that, I've never really had any issues. So I don't know that this is necessarily an Xbox hardware issue per se. I feel like it's probably not necessarily an Xbox hardware issue because I feel like all the versions kind of feel bad this time.
Getting frames down into the 20s. And guess what? I unfortunately didn't record this, but as soon as I was done with this test, I again went to talk to someone and my game crashed. No
Bummer.
joke. Now, since I was also testing Xbox Cloud, I also tested the new 3.5 update in Shuangfeng. And as you can see, fights tank FPS. This battle hit 30 FPS. Crazy. Other basic fights hit the mid.
Some say that those who upload their videos in 1080p 30 FPS are based. Probably not great for an action game, though.
40s. Now, I really want to retest this on GeForce Now, especially since the free tier has access. I'm very curious how it plays. So if anyone is playing in the later updates like in Lahairoi, or the brand new one with the release of version 3.5, be aware that the Xbox platform, especially the Series S, will have massive frame drops, and might even crash on you from time to time. And if you're playing this on the Xbox One, you will be streaming the game and you might have similar issues. So be aware. So if anyone has frame drops or even crashes while playing Wuthering Waves on Xbox, you're not alone. Send this video to anyone who's having issues, and hopefully they'll make this game more optimized soon.
I mean, I hope they do, obviously.
So if you like this extra innings overview of Wuthering Waves on Xbox, make sure to like the video and subscribe where I give my cutting edge tips, gameplay, and reviews of games I love to play here at Black Knight Plays.
Shout out. Yeah, you don't really need tips to play Wuthering Waves, though, low key. You don't get hit and beat the thing. It's pretty straightforward. That's really disappointing to hear that the performance is so butt on Xbox. Although, again, glad I don't have an Xbox. Glad I don't really play on Xbox. I'm struggling enough as it is. I feel like it can't possibly just be a hardware issue. I've had too many issues across the multiple platforms I've played it on, including mobile, which is its own nightmarish revelation. That I feel like it's got to be something to do with the package that they bundled in the distribution of 3.5 this time around. So hopefully that maybe gets fixed in some capacity or at least optimized in the future. But it's a really bad showing to have it debut on a new platform like this with new players, some of you in chat right now, having a bad experience with it. I wonder what Renacida looks like though. Because Renacida, I think, is much closer to the original 1.x areas where it's like more sprawling land and things are a little more spaced out. You have your city locations. But Lahai Roy in particular is really dense. Mangzhou also pretty dense. So I don't know. I don't know. It could just be the way that the areas are designed, and it's not. It's just too much. It's too much stress. I don't know. Sad to see that happen on a launch, though, for a new platform, for sure. And I hope people stick with it. I hope they freaking address this at some point, because it's not just Xbox players having problems, Kuro. Okay? Let's be real about it here. Everybody else is also struggling a little bit. Crying out loud. Guess I'll have fun at Lahai. You just met Chang Li? Dude, Chang Li's the GOAT. Chang Li, also a queen. Straight up. What's up, Elroy? There's literally a video in my sidebar. Wuwa's Xbox version is terrible. Oh man. We can't make it up, man. We can't be making it up. Oh, what next? What do we want to look at next? Oh, Splatoon Raiders. Is coming out, and I've seen some early reviews for that. We could check that out. Let's do that.
My wrists are sore.
We have an IGN review. Surely that won't lie to us and be biased, right? I did have Splatoon Raiders pre-ordered. So it is coming. Let's look at some of the ratings here. IGN, top of the pool with 9 out of 10. That's huge. That's an 8. That's an 8. I think that's 3.5 stars. I guess it's technically a 70. I think that's technically a 90. That's a 90. We really need a standardized rating system, because 3.5 stars being a 70 out of 100 is rough. You know what I mean? We got to fix that. We got to do something about that. Okay, so Splatoon Raiders doing pretty well on OpenCritic. It's mashing as of right now like an 83, which is still pretty nice, you know. So overall pretty good. But Splatoon to me has always been a multiplayer game. And it's my understanding that Splatoon Raiders is like a solo loot kind of game, a loot and shoot for a solo experience. So how does that work? How do you take something that's had 3 iterations and rework it to like a solo thing? Maybe it's not a solo thing. Maybe there's actual co-op. I don't know a whole lot about it. I kind of tapped out in Splatoon 3. I played a lot of Splatoon 2. But beyond that, I haven't really seen the franchise. I don't do well in online multiplayer games because they bring out a certain toxic side of myself that is better left in the early 2000s. Okay? That's when angsty teenage Brian. Let's just leave him in the past. But a solo, Now that could be something interesting.
Or from how much Splatoon Raiders I've been playing. If you're a serious veteran like me, you know that can happen when you play PvP marathons with motion aiming on. But there's no competitive multiplayer.
I've
here.
never played with
Instead,
motion aiming
the
on.
first Splatoon spin-off is an incredibly well-designed action RPG that's already drawn me in for more than 40 hours. It's all about tinkering. I love crafting my build to get just a little bit stronger, putting it to the test in challenging, varied stages, and then sifting through the meaningful loot I earned to see what creative combo I can glue together next. When you stack that classic but expertly executed loop on top of Splatoon's already awesome foundation, you get the strongest campaign this series has ever seen and one of the best Switch 2 games so far.
Okay. We did see on OpenCritic, again, IGN gave it one of its highest scores, which was a 90. I think the lowest one we saw was 3.5 out of 5 stars, which I think is technically 7 out of 10, which would be a 70. We really got to do something about score standardization on OpenCritic, but beyond that, IGN loved it. So I'm assuming that this review is going to glaze it.
You play as the Mechanic, a blank slate Inkling or Octoling with a knack for crafting. You're trying to help pay off Splatsville's enormous debt by battling waves of salmonid enemies to uncover valuable relics. All 11 of Splatoon's weapon types are here, but the Mechanic has put their own spin on the designs, which gives raiders a scrappy, homemade visual identity that really stands out. Attacking enemies, covering
That looks like a
everything,
milk
and
carton.
swimming through it feels better than ever, no matter which type you prefer, thanks in part to the improved HD rumble of the Switch 2 Pro controller. It was fun to use different weapons across the 18-hour campaign and well beyond, though I found myself falling back to my personal favorite, the dualies. Even still,
Dualies
the
are
game's
busted.
super
I remember
fresh
that.
Thanks to its standout new feature, the gadgets. These are special pieces of equipment separate from your main weapon, and a huge chunk of the RPG loop is built around them. The options are spread across 3 ink tanks: speed, power, and tactical, and each one's unique strengths are endlessly fun to explore. You can swap your tank type at any time, and are even actively encouraged to do so, with special rewards for certain missions. The speed tank's gadgets prioritize mobility and evasive.
I don't like learning new weapons. I like finding something I'm really comfortable with and then just hammering that home until the end of time. That is where I thrive. That is my happy place. I hate a game that forces me out of my comfort zone for the sake of individual growth. Which it sounds like Splatoon is doing. Also, what is this frame rate?
Like the jump bomb that lets you leap out of dangerous situations. The power tank's gadgets let you charge in to deal heavy damage, like the Splatchet's sweeping slash that can kill some salmonids in a single blow. But my favorite is the tactical tank, with strategic gadgets that focus on spacing. That includes the bomb balloons, ink-filled explosives that link up with each other, causing a violent burst that scales with how many you have in the field.
Oh, those are kind of cool.
Each individual power is just the beginning, as these are deeply customizable tools
that looks sick,
allow
actually.
you to create tons of different builds, especially when you consider that you can have 2 gadgets equipped at one time. You'll constantly uncover new combinations that play off each other in smart ways, like how the jump bomb and flywire can work together to make an acrobatic build where you never touch the ground. As you complete missions, you'll unlock new skills for your gadgets as well, and this is where the experimentation truly shines. Take the bomb balloons, for example. You could make them as explosive as possible, covering more area when they detonate. Or you could take advantage of the fact that the tether between the bomb balloons also deals damage, and instead work to make them last as long as possible. These are just 2 of hundreds of potential avenues, and as your character levels up, you unlock room to slot even more skills into each gadget. There are lots of late game powers I'm not allowed to show off ahead of release, so I'll just say my favorite tactical build generates so much passive damage that I literally never have to fire my main weapon. With so much choice, the crafting menu really could use a wish.
I'm sorry, was he not firing his main weapon right there?
With so much.
Perhaps it was a different B-roll footage and not relevant to what he was speaking about.
Much choice, the crafting menu really could use a wish list system, so I could keep better track of all the materials I need to buy these upgrades. Right now I have to screenshot, write down, or just remember everything I'm hunting for.
I like the kind of traversing the environment
to use every tool to the fullest,
stuff.
because the Salmonid army is not messing around. I want to point out that due to some restrictions on what we're allowed to show ahead of launch, most of the fights you're seeing are from the first third or so of the campaign.
I will also point out the thing I like the most about Splatoon is actually the ink mechanic. I like shooting a line of ink and then being able to like swim up it. And like that's how you kind of get around. You know what I mean? That's an interesting way to like traverse the world in which you are kind of put into. And it makes things very different. And I like that. It's a cool way to explore places that you're at. Problem with that is you don't really get a chance to do that in most of Splatoon's 1 through 3's settings because you're in PvP combat majority of the time. Or you're in like trial maps where you're also kind of constantly under enemy fire. So if there is some kind of like weird overworld situation where you kind of have this home base and you're just kind of exploring Breath of the Wild style a little bit in and out, I'm kind of on board with that.
And things get far more hectic than what you're seeing on screen. Relentless hordes will overwhelm you if you don't head in with a solid strategy. If that sounds unappealing, there are 3 difficulty levels to choose from, and all they change is how much damage you take, not the rewards or experience. As an S+ ranked Splatoon player, I immediately turned the difficulty to the hardest setting, Survivalist. This led to tense firefights and a thin margin between victory and defeat, and I love the stakes that created. I also tested the standard mode, and while I didn't die nearly as much, the smart encounter design and identical number of enemies still provided a satisfying challenge. Failure is an important part of Raiders too. When you lose, you have to head back to base, rethink your build, and maybe complete a couple of side missions before trying again. The deep customization wouldn't be nearly as interesting if the missions were a breeze, and Raiders completely nails that important balance.
Okay.
The campaign stands out even further with its nearly perfect pacing. I grew incrementally stronger with each success, but the Salmonid army always stayed one step ahead, with increasingly difficult stages that asked me to find new ways to keep up. But I never felt like I was unnecessarily grinding or replaying the same levels over and over, because there were always new stages to play. There are 5 main level types, and each one gives you something different as a reward, whether it's money, a new buff, craft.
Dude, I'm sorry. There's so much happening on the screen right now. Oh my god, there's so much happening on the screen. I'm overstimulated. There's so much to take in. What is happening right here? Can we just bump that back a minute?
5 main level types, and each one gives you something different as a reward, whether it's money,
Holy
buff,
cow.
crafting materials, or skill points. So when you need something specific, there's always a level type waiting for you, and you're constantly bouncing between them. They range from linear paths with some fun platforming challenges as you make your way to the next intense wave of Salmonids, multi-level dungeons where you need to output enough raw damage to clear each floor in a limited amount of time, and open battlefields where you try to get as much loot as possible before you extract. Alternatively, Salmonid dens are a specific enemy type and often require a degree of lateral thinking, where picking the right tool in your toolbox is the only way to clear the room in time. Finally, the Sampler dungeons are a standout. They are basically Splatoon's take on shrines from Breath of the Wild. Each one...
Breath of the Wild is mentioned! Okay, cool. I'm on board.
Takes you through a set of puzzles where
these look like the little trial rounds that I'm familiar with from the main games.
For each gadget, and it equips you with one of the strongest possible versions of that tool. They are great tutorials for new powers, and I learned things about multiple gadgets I'd previously underestimated. These are motivating too. Seeing some of the craziest combos you can pull off with a souped up version of a gadget made me want to go and upgrade my own so I could do it all the time.
And then you get the thing and it's not super souped up, and then you realize, oh. So it's a clever way to get you to grind because you know what the max potential is. I like that.
There are also spicy versions of nearly every level that dramatically up the difficulty and number of enemies. These are extremely fun to tackle and require even more creativity to clear. I was initially unimpressed by the graphics. It doesn't look all that different from a Switch 1 game.
I was going to say that. Like, as I've kind of been talking and pausing throughout, some of it's a bit like a Three Houses fruit box, if you know what I mean.
But when I saw the sheer amount of enemies crammed on screen in a spicy level while it stayed locked at 60 FPS, I understood how this game was taking advantage of the Switch 2's additional power.
In fairness, though, I don't know that I would even be able to really like here. This looks rough, man. This looks rough right here. I don't know that in the moment I'm really being able to appreciate and or focus on any of that because it's constant chaos everywhere. Just straight up chaos all over the place.
Still, the levels aren't that visually interesting. You'll see a lot of repeat biomes with a fairly bland, muted color palette, which is an odd thing to say about this generally very stylish series.
That is
Spice it or
true.
not, though, enemy
That's
variety
fairly
shines
contrast.
across the board. The Salmonids will be familiar to anyone who plays a lot of Salmon Run, but the way they're used here leads to clever encounters that often feel like puzzles. Every boss poses a unique.
I do love puzzles. I like the gameplay mechanics of Splatoon, but incorporated into puzzling. I think that is interesting, and I like that. What's up, Liam?
Problem, like the Smoker's giant bubble that protects enemy Salmonids, or the bouncing big shots damaging
Salmonids.
shockwave that pressures you out of the ink.
I love the way he says that.
Different combinations of these foes means there's always a lot to consider as you weave through the chaos and make split-second decisions about who to take out first to give yourself a bit more breathing room. Raiders is playable entirely in online co-op, and I'm so impressed with how it gets pretty much every decision right. Multiplayer supports up to 4 Raiders, and while the host has to pick the levels, everyone earns their own separate loot and gets credit for completing that stage. The smartest thing it does is level scaling.
Does it have to be 4-player online co-op, though?
In my friend's level 8 mission, enemies appear as level 30 on my screen and level 8 on theirs. I also earn rewards appropriate for my level. That meant I both had to put up a real fight, and I wouldn't ruin my friend's game just by steamrolling everything with endgame gear. And because difficulty settings only impact the amount of damage you take, I can play on Survivalist while my friend plays on an easier difficulty with no issue.
Wow.
If you're a solo player and need help, you can call for assistance from other players around the world, who will earn bonus rewards for helping someone in need. There's even an arcade game to play back at your base while you...
That's fire. They thought a lot about this. That's crazy. Individual level scaling based on, like, the person. That's wild. I want to know more about this, though.
Wait for everyone to finish their prep, which is a nice throwback to Splatoon 1's Squid Jump on the Wii U gamepad.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It really feels like they thought of everything.
I do remember that.
I do think Raiders is actually slightly better.
Where my Wii U havers at? Okay. I got the version that had Smash and Splatoon already pre-installed, which I don't even know if they're actually playable now, because I tried moving them to a portable hard drive. So, live and learn.
As a single-player game, only because its clever level designs can be trivialized when you throw more firepower into the mix, which turns it into a bit more of a generic multiplayer shooter. Don't get me wrong, it's still totally fun to blast through levels with your friends, it's just a very different vibe to the puzzle-like nature of going it alone. I might recommend you play the campaign on your own first, and then group up with others when you go back for the endgame.
Well, you gotta play the campaign first.
Opens up even more difficult challenges to tackle and more powerful customization to gear you up for it. It's totally reasonable to feel satisfied and walk away.
That's what the campaign's there for.
But if you're like me and play Monster Hunter or similar games for hundreds of hours and love the grind, there's plenty of really cool stuff to do. I initially thought the balance wasn't quite as finely tuned in the endgame. It seemed much easier to craft a pretty broken build fairly fast, but Raiders eventually rebutted with tests that sent me right back to the workbench. This is unlikely to be a forever game for me, but I'm sure I'll get a couple dozen more.
A forever game? Oh. Those are big words, man. Can't just be throwing that around lightly. I like the idea of games that you grind intensely for hundreds of hours. I always feel guilty because there's always other games that I want to play. And I feel like spending, 500 hours on a game is like 450 hours spent on something that I could have been experiencing other games with, you know what I mean? I get it. I always have guilt if I spend too much time on a game like that.
Hours out of it as I play with friends, help strangers, and continue to improve my loadouts.
The verdict. He loved it.
Splatoon Raiders is an amazing action RPG with an expertly executed loop. It has fantastic new powers with crazy upgrades that are worth chasing, tough battles that force you to put care into your build in order to overcome them, and a huge variety of fun level types to jump between. The pacing, balance, and difficulty curve are very impressive. I always had to work to get better, but none of the campaign ever felt like grinding or needless padding. Raiders stays fresh by constantly introducing deeper ways to customize my abilities that spark new ideas for creative combinations. I reached the credits more than 20 hours ago, but thanks to an overpowered endgame worth coming back for, and the option to seamlessly play with friends online, I've got plenty of raiding left to do. This is the best Splatoon campaign yet and one of the top games on Switch 2.
Wow, that's Glaze. Okay. One of the best games on Switch 2. Now, granted, Switch 2 has only been out for like a year and some change. But you have some pretty heavy hitters, especially ones that are like online, like Mario Kart World, for example. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Tons of ports that you could also be playing. Wow, one of the best Switch 2 titles. That's high praise.
Reviews director Tom Marks here with Logan Plant to talk a little bit more about his Splatoon Raiders review. Logan, you are our host of NBC. You've done a bunch of Nintendo reviews for us over the last couple of years. But Splatoon is like your wheelhouse. Can you tell me a little bit? You mentioned your insane hour count in the review very briefly, but can you tell me how much have you played these games, and is it going to shock me?
Yeah, it might shock you. I've been a part of Splatoon since before day one, right? They did that network test for the Wii U one. I woke up at 3 a.m.
That's a fire CRT back there, by the way. Also, we got some minis and some Lego. This is a bit of a gamer. Uh-oh, gamer alert. Also, what is this and why don't I own it? That is a Donkey Kong Bonanza statue? Chat, y'all are supposed to tell me about things like this when they pop up. Also, those are all amiibo. Brother, there is a better shelf display for there's so much wasted space up here. You got so much wasted space, brother. Hit me up. I know you're gonna see this video because it's popping over here. Hit me up. I will give you display advice. I got you, bro. There's a better way to live life over here. We get some tears in there. Shit.
To play Splatoon.
That could be fire.
Back in 2015, like a month before it came out, and I've just been in love with this series ever since. I just think it's such a cool franchise for Nintendo that still feels pretty new. It's only 11 years old compared to the Marios and Zeldas, which have been around forever, but it's just such high quality. I love the shooting mechanics. I love swimming through the ink. I've played every mainline Splatoon for at least 150 hours each. I reviewed the Roguelite DLC Side Order a couple of years ago. It was one of my first big reviews at IGN, actually. So yeah, this is...
Oh, he's got a Nintendo Power issue back there.
Whenever a new one of these comes out.
So what is it about them that gets under your skin? Is it the feel? Is it the uniqueness? Is it the style?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the feel and the movement. I love how games feel to play, and Splatoon is just so tactile. It's so good. Swimming through the ink, you feel that rumble in your controller.
That does feel
Pop
good.
Out, take somebody out with the dualies.
I do like the ink swimming. I do not like the motion control.
At the same spot for extra power. Like, it just feels fantastic to play, and I love all its different applications across its modes. And the main ones, like Turf War is great, Salmon Run is great, the single player is usually very good, and so to take that and move it to a completely new genre is just so exciting to me, and I think there's so much potential for other genres they could keep going to, just because how Splatoon feels to play.
The amiibo for Bonanza? They're up here. They were, in fairness, Pauline is basically in the same position. Here, here we go. But DK was like punching down. Yes, I have the amiibo on my desk. Before anybody asks, yes, it's literally right. I also have K. Rool. We got a whole DK theme thing going on my desk. Okay, I'm a nerd. I work in the nerd industry. I have desk toys. I also have one in the box on the shelf right over here. So, you know,
It is so fantastic.
So you just mentioned single player. Let's touch on that a little bit more. What do you think makes a Splatoon campaign work compared to the multiplayer? Because the multiplayer has had iterations, but they, are largely fairly close. They iterate on a similar idea, whereas the campaigns experiment a little bit more.
Yes, I think that there's kind of two different types of campaigns. There's the earlier campaigns are more tutorials for the multiplayer. It just dips your toe in. Here's all the weapons. Here's things you can do. And there's fun platforming challenges and things in those. But when Splatoon single player shines, it's let's do something completely different. I think about the Octo expansion, which has been the crown jewel of single player for a long time. Until now, I think. I think Raiders beats it. It's better. But Octo expansion has a ton of cool mini games and challenges that are very different than anything you do in the multiplayer. And then Side Order is a roguelite that just gives you crazy powers, unbelievable amount of stuff happening on screen. You're constantly upgrading your character, and then Raiders takes that and runs with it. It's detached from the requirements of a competitively balanced PvP game. So when it realizes that, and it's like, we can do whatever we want. This is a single player game. It doesn't have to be balanced. That is when it's at its best.
Well, let's touch on that a little bit more, the single player versus multiplayer side of this, because I was pretty surprised to see in your review that you said that it's more fun single player than it is co-op, and they've called this a single player adventure, but it is a co-op shooter to some extent, and these games, I think often people assume it's gonna be more fun with friends, and that's not really the case here. And so does it really feel like this should be a single player game?
Kirby vending machine.
The co-op mode is sort of like a classic Nintendo.
I just noticed it.
It's like, yeah, you can play that way if you want, but you sort of shouldn't.
It's been there for so long already, and I just noticed it.
Like first,
see how he's punching down, and the amiibo he's punching out. Pauline, straight up, kind of in the same position though.
Party Nintendo puzzle platforming levels where there's specific solutions to things, and so just when you throw in more people, you can bypass a lot of that. And I praise the difficulty curve a lot and how brilliant I think it is in single player, where it's really pushing back against you constantly as you continue to get better and better. And I just noticed when I played with more people, you could kind of just steamroll through a little bit. So they're just very different experiences, and for me, I like that push and pull of this is the designed single player campaign with these really cool levels and these challenges that you need to go in with a plan. You need to bring in the right gadgets to take out these enemies in an efficient way, and there's a few ways you can do it, but you piece that together yourself. And if you just have 4 people going crazy launching their ultimates, you'll complete that a lot quicker. So it's still super fun. Like, I would never say don't play this in multiplayer. I just think you're robbing yourself of something really special if you don't reach the credits on your own first.
I wouldn't have expected this comparison, but it almost sounds very similar to just a 2D Mario, where when you're playing a 2D Mario, there's a lot of little intricacies and the jumps and the secrets and everything, and when you're playing with 4 people, it's chaos.
I guess maybe. If you harken it back to like New Super Mario Bros, where everybody's on the screen running around in that, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. I had to think about it, but yeah, I'm brought around. I'm brought around to the concept of that. I would have personally never made that comparison because I don't think 2D Mario games are all that intricate with their level design and how you progress through it. But okay.
I mean, it's fun, but it is not. It sounds similar to what you're saying. Of it's not the same game necessarily, even if it's also a very fun one.
Yeah, I'd say that's exactly it. Yeah, it's not that multiplayer is worse, it's just a different game. And for my tastes, like the single player was where it was at, is going through, because I just love when
I've heard,
designs things in this game.
based on some of the
Using
reviews I
challenges
checked
versus
out on
escaping without
OpenCritic,
really explicitly telling you how to solve them.
the
It's just
single
like,
player
yeah,
experience,
like I
like
said,
somebody
multiplayer's
said
chaotic,
it should have always
crazy,
been a
just
single
throwing
player
everything at the wall,
franchise.
and that's still a blast. And I think I mentioned this.
Like
too,
Raiders made them fully
absolutely
believe
this
that
endgame grind with
Splatoon
friends
should
for
have been a
strangers
single
in
player
where I play,
experience,
because
like
now
all
that's what I
along.
want. I've seen all the challenges. Now I'm gonna go back and just blast through with friends.
All right, last question. Splatoon has, as we talked about earlier, gotten DLC over the years. It is one of the few sort of Nintendo.
Oh, they're absolutely giving DLC to this game. Are you kidding me?
Expansions and new ideas here and there. So, what's your dream?
I'm surprised
DLC
they didn't
for
already
this game?
announce it,
Would you
low-key.
just want more of it? Is there something that you feel like is missing that you would want to see, or do you just want to see them experiment?
I just think more gadgets is
Okay.
what I really want. And yeah, because if you just throw in 3 more gadgets, 1 for each tank type, that opens up a million new possibilities of different builds and things you could do. And then maybe add just harder end game challenges too. Just keep ramping it up and keep allowing me to get stronger and stronger. I don't think they need to do anything radically different, because I think what they have is a really good formula that I would just take more of.
Cool. Well, that sounds great. Logan, thank you so much for chatting with us a little bit more about your history with the series and all that jazz. If you want a very, very different type of co-op game, check out the Mound Omen of Cthulhu. We have a review of that.
All right. Is it a buy or pass? I mean, it's coming to my home. I did purchase it. It will be showing up at some point. I'll try it. I'll try anything once. I mainly got it because Jenna was also interested in it. And Splatoon teams have always been like a little bit hit or miss with me. And the fact that it got so much high praise as a single player experience kind of gave me hope. That I would have like a good experience, but you know what I mean? So I'm down to figure it out. I'm down to see. I'm always open. I'll spend 10 hours on a game before I make a judgment call. You know? I'm not hasty in my decision making. I did want to check out Oh. Okay. We got a banger, okay? So I need y'all to lock in. I need y'all to lock in. I have been plagued with the concept of what a Switch 2 title is. We recently saw a lot of unnecessary Switch 2 titles. Example, the Octopath Traveler games. 1 and 2 are both getting Switch 2 editions. Okay. So much in fact that I think if you upgrade, you can't actually transfer your save data over or something like that. So you lose a bunch of progress if you do. Also, the Octopath games, you can easily put like 100 plus hours in. Does it need a Switch 2 version? I would argue probably not. Then there are other versions like Xenoblade Chronicles X, for example, where the improvements on the Switch 2 version were very, very welcome compared to just the straight up port over. Okay. So it makes sense sometimes. But my boy Scott the Woz seemingly has figured out, or at least I hope, there's question marks in the title. Perhaps he has not even figured it out. What is a Switch 2 edition? Because I don't know. I'm confused. I'm over here still getting Split Fiction on launch day, and it's just a code inside a box. I don't even have a cart for that game. Okay? That it's not even a Switch 2 edition. It's a download code in a Switch 2 box. Make it make sense to me, please. I don't understand. Although I guess technically it never came out for Switch, so there is no Switch 2 edition of that game in particular. But the point is, there's game cards, there's game key cards, there's download codes, and they work on Switch 1 also. Yeah. So it's like, why? Why is there so much ambiguity and confusion around something that should just be so simple and understood? I don't know. Hopefully Scott the Woz understands.
There are certain questions we're never meant to know the answer to. What's the meaning of life? Why did Splatoon 3 get a free update and Xenoblade X was paid?
This is why I like this guy. He opens up spitting facts off rip, bro. Yes. He gets it. But again, the Xenoblade Chronicles X thing like that, please, yes, dear God. Yeah. It needed
Folks,
it.
I kind of just want to talk about the inconsistencies of Switch 1 games that get the update to Switch 2, and how absolutely none of this makes any goddamn sense. All right,
True.
So let's go over some of this.
He's also confused. That's
wanted
good.
To make this as simple as possible. If this is a Switch 1 game that comes over to Switch 2 and gets enhancements, okay, we're going to label it all as Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. And damn, they make sure you know this is the Switch 2 version of the game. On the box art,
It's very
only do you
rad.
get the big fat ass Switch 2 header, not only do you get Switch 2 Edition under the logo, then you also have to have this block of text at the bottom with a QR code just in case Nintendo doesn't want to get sued by somebody who was confused. I don't know. So why do you have to label this as Nintendo Switch 2 Edition if you can already clearly see
I will point out, though, the really convenient thing about the QR codes, it very quickly helps me identify what's a game key card and what is not. If I don't see the QR code, that's an instant cop for me, because there's far and few between these days. But I have to give a little bit of pause and understanding whenever I see the QR code, because I'm like, And even then, I'm like, is there even anything in here? I don't know.
the fact that this game is on Switch 2 because, you know, it has the Switch 2 logo on the case. Well, it turns out anything that is labeled as a
Right
Switch
in the
2
center at the
edition
top.
can also play on Switch 1. That's the whole point of this subtitle, which I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
That's what I'm saying, bro. How can if it's for Switch 2, how can it be on Switch 1? Doesn't that just make it a Switch 1 game? Because you can also play Switch 1 games on Switch 2. But they cost more. Why? What is the point? I think maybe this is just this is a problem that next gen gaming has, because we've reached this technological ceiling that, like, the next gen of gaming consoles, like, what is even the point, man? What's the point of it?
Okay, so let me get this right. Any game that is labeled as Nintendo Switch 2 Edition has a base Nintendo Switch 1 Edition. So the Nintendo
Just built
Switch 2
in.
Edition is the Nintendo Switch 2 build of the game that cannot exist if the game wasn't already on Nintendo Switch 1. Thus,
So the Switch 2 game card is the Switch 1 version that comes with an upgrade code cooked in. Right? But then, like, why doesn't save data transfer for the Octopath games? Do you understand why I'm really confused about this? We're not even 2 minutes in, and I have more questions still. But Scott and I seem equally confused about the same things.
If you buy a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of a game, you can insert that game into your Switch 1, and the Switch 1 version will play. You insert it into a Switch 2, the Switch 2 version will play. But Nintendo themselves doesn't want to mention this at all. I remember trailers for Pokemon Legends ZA, Metroid Prime 4. At the very end of those trailers, they make it very clear. They are saying, hey, make sure you buy the right version of the game. The Switch 1 game can only play on Switch 1s. The Switch 2 game can only play on Switch 2s. Don't f it up.
The Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game can be played on a Switch 2. Please be sure to purchase the game edition that matches your system.
Hell, even after they initially announced Switch 2 editions, there was some misinformation going around where Nintendo representatives were saying like, oh, Switch 2 editions of something like Zelda at retail, the retail copies will just be the Switch 1 game card with a download code for the Switch 2 upgrade pack.
Is that real?
Would have been lame as hell, but I thought that made perfect sense. Like, I wouldn't have liked that, but it's also like, okay, well, that makes economical sense, I guess. But no, it's way cooler than that. It's literally a game card that works on both Switch 1 and 2. Now, as much as I'm saying that, I've never taken advantage of that. And I'm sure most people that say, like, wow, that's cool, have also never taken advantage of that. But it's kind of a neat thing that it's possible. Now, the fact that Switch 2 editions do that and can play on both consoles means that a Switch 2 edition, theoretically, I do not think could be a game key card, because game key cards, well, it's pretty much just telling your console, hey, you have access to the license of this game, you can download it. And the Switch 1 doesn't run game key cards, so yeah, if there's a Switch 2 edition, it needs to be on the cartridge. Except for Civilization 7. To my knowledge, this is the only Nintendo Switch 2 edition out at retail that is just a download code in the box.
Why? Why are there nuances and exceptions? At least it does say full game download. Game card not included.
Which I think is just awful. What I ended up doing here was just buying the Nintendo Switch 1 version of the game.
Smart.
And then buying the Switch 2 edition upgrade pack on the eShop, because like
also
nothing's
smart.
Worse than a code in the box. At least now, like, okay, well, I own
Split Fiction. Code in the box. Can confirm, felt terrible finding out that. Yeah. Awful. Utterly bleh.
A physical copy of Civilization 7, and either way, like, the Switch 2 edition upgrade would have been DLC.
Like, why do I have the box? Not to belabor this point further, but why do I have the box? What am I showcasing? That I have a digital copy of the game? Okay, I don't need that to take up shelf space. Because none of the other games I have are like that. What? It's so stupid.
Anyway, so it's just like, who the hell cares? Yeah, this is the best possible way to do this. But yes, even though Civ 7 Nintendo Switch 2 edition, the way they went about it is kinda stinky, at least, hey, we know what a Switch 2 edition is. It's basically an upgrade pack to a Nintendo Switch 1 game, and when you get a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of a game, it'll still play on Switch 1. Like, yeah, even if you get the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Civilization 7 and it's downloadable only, you can still download Civ 7 from your Nintendo account on your Switch 1. So it maintains the tradition of a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. But the weird thing is, there's a fair amount of Nintendo Switch 1 games that got free updates to run better on Switch 2, whether that's outputting at a higher resolution or running.
Surely they're all first party though, right?
Straight up adding things to the game. So Game Builder Garage got mouse control support. Clubhouse Games got game share functionality.
I like
Super
that.
Mario Odyssey got a resolution boost. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are playable now. And then
Okay, I was gonna make a comment about the Mario Odyssey. I didn't know that had an upgrade in any capacity. That's cool. But the shot at Pokemon is kind of funny, low-key.
these are free updates, so that must mean the paid Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games are just far and beyond leagues better. Now, for them, no. The line is incredibly blurry here, but generally it seems like these Switch 2 free updates for these Switch 1 games seem to be, some of them run at a higher resolution, some of them have higher frame rates, but there's not really any major new content added in these things. Even mentioning stuff like, mouse controls in Game Builder Garage and game share functionality in Clubhouse Games. Like, they added those to those games, sure, but it's not like all of these other games got mouse controls and higher frame rates and higher resolution. Like, it kind of feels like they picked and choose maybe one or two of these things to add to these games, and that was about it. And even then, these games aren't like massive, gigantic improvements, maybe outside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but something like Mario Odyssey, yeah, it looks very nice now at a higher resolution, and they fixed some weird
that does look a lot
issues,
better.
like the humans in New Donk City animating at a lower frame rate. But for the most part, while it is a very nice update, I feel like something like
Dude, the question mark block alone? Like, oh my god. And you can actually read the words now. I mean, I guess, like, I always kind of assumed what they said. But that is night and day, bro. I did not know. Oh, night and day improvement. DF clips, W title. Very accurate. I didn't know that dude, the heck? I gotta check this out. I didn't know that was free. I've been wanting to play Mario Odyssey again too, actually. I wanted to revisit it several years after the fact. That looks so much better.
But for the most part, while it is a very nice update, I feel like something like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are far more transformative. Like going from the sub 30 frames per second
true.
at times of those games and the 720p, 900p.
There's a lot more detail to take in Breath of the Wild,
Switch
though.
1 to 4K 60 frames per second on Switch 2. It's definitely a much more transformative experience. Plus, they added Zelda notes to that game, which who the fuck cares? But still, it does feel like the
Find your Korok seeds like a man. Don't be a wuss. You're a real gamer. Find them on your own, or just look them up online. Now, low key for the casual experience, that is like such a good improvement. That's crazy. Sorry to go all Manosphere on you earlier. I was in jest.
Zelda Switch 2 editions are meatier than the Switch 2 free updates. The free updates are kind of just like, hey, let's kind of clean a couple of these games up to run and look better on Switch 2, or maybe take advantage of some unique features on Switch 2. And even with Game Builder Garage, utilizing the Joy-Con 2 mouse in that game technically already had a USB mouse support, so it's kind of just adding an extra little controller option to that game, so it's nothing that crazy. Plus, when you boot up one of these Switch 1 games with a free Switch 2 update, they still say Nintendo Switch on the little loading screen. But when you boot up the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild, for example, it does say Nintendo Switch 2. So I guess a Nintendo Switch 2 edition is a full-on Nintendo Switch 2 game, whereas these Switch 1 games with a free Switch 2 update, they're still Nintendo Switch 1 games, but they threw in a little bonus for if you're playing on Switch 2. And this isn't unprecedented. There were a couple of Game Boy Color games that gave you exclusive little features if you played them on a Game Boy.
But like, if the Switch 2 version still says Switch 1, if it's just like, a minor update, but it's still like an enhanced Switch 2 version, doesn't that still make it a Switch 2 version? I think my biggest complaint with trying to define a Switch 2 game version is just like trying to figure out the vernacular around the definition of what a Switch 2 version actually is. We haven't gotten to the root of the problem yet, Scott. We're still out here drowning, man. Don't look at me like that. How do we define it? Tell me.
Boy Advance, like Shantae and Wendy Every Which Way. Zelda Oracle of Seasons and Ages also had exclusive features, but I wanted to mention Wendy Every Which Way. But yeah, those games are still Game Boy Color games, but they give you some extra little things on the Game Boy Advance. But there was nothing stopping the developers from making
I honestly didn't know they did that.
native Game Boy Advance versions of the game that would have taken more advantage of the Game Boy Advance hardware. But instead, those games were still Game Boy Color games with some cute little Game Boy Advanced added features to them. And that's what I think these Switch 1 games with Switch 2 updates are in comparison to the Switch 2 editions of games, which are full-on Nintendo Switch 2 games. And I think it makes perfect sense to denote what a Nintendo Switch 2 edition is if that means you are gonna get a high-quality Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive version of the game compared to a Switch 1 game with a free update. One problem, that's not the fucking case, okay? What the hell is going on?
Every time we get one step closer to the answer, we take 4 steps backwards. And it's mind-numbing. I'm starting to think that Switch 2 versions are just this great big marketing ploy and trying to get you to think that you're getting a deal. But in reality, they're just selling you an add-on to a game that maybe you don't necessarily need sometimes.
Going on here. A lot of third parties have Nintendo Switch 2 editions of their Switch 1 games, but they're completely free, which, hey, I'll take it. But
Free is good.
Okay, well, what are we doing here? I would have assumed the point of labeling something as a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of a game is so then there is absolutely no confusion involved. But why does it matter if people are confused if the upgrade pack is free? It's free. Why do we have to denote it's the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game?
This is what I'm saying.
Just release the game. Just put Hollow Knight Silksong on Switch 2. That's all you need to do. And then if somebody had the Switch 1 version and they were like, I have a Switch 2 now and I want to play Hollow Knight Silksong at a better frame rate and better resolution, well, just download the upgrade pack for free. But okay, I guess these kind of follow the mindset that I had earlier of like, okay, something labeled as a Switch 2 edition. They wanted to so then like, oh, you can just upgrade to that if you own the Switch 1 game, but you upgrade to what is essentially a brand new Nintendo Switch 2 official version. It's a new build of the game specifically for the Switch 2. What the fuck was Dragon Quest III HD 2D then? That game got a free update for the Switch 2, which, yeah, that's cool. Basically makes it on par with the PS5 version of the game. That's massive. You're telling me that's not a Nintendo Switch 2 official build of the game? Okay, but
It's not? Oh my god. So they just sold an enhancement pack that utilizes Switch 2 technology, but it's not a Switch 2 version. But that's basically exactly what like the Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild bumps were. And those are Switch 2 versions. I only have more questions. This is the problem. I feel constantly berated by additional confusion every time we reach some sort of plateau of understanding. Ay.
Like, I'm just a little confused. But the fact that was released by Square Enix, and that's just a free update. But then you have Final Fantasy Tactics, which is a Switch 1 game that launched simultaneously on Switch 2. But if you had the Switch 1 version, you could do a free update to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. However, Square Enix also released Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. It's not a Switch 2 edition, though. Hell, you can't even transfer your fucking save data between...
That's what the Octopath thing is! Dude! Why is it like this? Why is there, like, no consistency? I don't think technology is supposed to work that way. I think technology is supposed to be very A to B to C, not whatever the hell this is.
between the two versions. So they never released a Switch 2 edition of Dragon Quest 3, but they gave it a free update to run perfectly on Switch 2. But then they did a Switch 2 edition of Final Fantasy Tactics, but then they didn't do a Switch 2 edition of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D. I know there's a lot of Switch 2 games that come out that are better versions of Switch 1 games, but are not labeled as Nintendo Switch 2 editions and are basically full price. You just have to straight up buy them again. You can't transfer anything. They are fundamentally completely separate from the Switch 1 version of the game. You have something like Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. That was available at the Switch 2 launch just, what, like 7 months after that game released on Switch 1? Instead of giving you a free update, hell, even just like an upgrade pack for $10. No, you had to buy that fucking game again for $50 damn. But then I guess Sega
That's
learned
crazy.
their lesson because Sonic Racing Cross Worlds released on Switch 2, and that was a full game.
I'm not in the Sonic sphere, so I don't really know or have a lot of context to what's going on with the Sonic games in particular. But that's crazy that you have to buy a whole new version of the game less than a year after the first one comes out. That is wild to me.
On the cartridge, and that was just a straight up Switch 2 edition. So if you bought the Switch 1 game, then you could just upgrade to the Switch 2 edition for like $10. But then they released Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition, which completely just sidelines all the Switch 2 edition shit. That game is fundamentally a Switch 2 edition, but they don't call it that. They just call it Definitive Edition. What's definitive about it? Oh, well, it includes all of the updates to the game. Just off the bat, which I don't
That kind of
understand.
makes sense.
All of the updates to the game were completely free. I guess it would have been nice if, like, the entire game was on the cartridge and all of the updates just come.
Because they did that with Street Fighter. Street Fighter came with like the first 2 seasons of DLC in the Switch 2 version of the game. And so it was like a certain edition of Street Fighter 6. So having like a definitive edition that comes with all of the paid DLC makes a lot of sense. And they've done this historically with like Switch as well. Like the complete edition, right? For like Witcher 3, for example, has a version of that on Switch. But if the updates are all free anyway, what's the point of calling it that? Because it's just...
baked on. But no, that game is a goddamn game key card, so it's just like, that doesn't fucking matter. I have to download the game anyways. Why does it matter? Oh, the game comes baked in with all the free updates.
You have to download it.
They did not do Switch 2 edition.
That doesn't make any
for those two
sense.
Sonic games because they did not want to shell out the money for a full game on the cartridge. But they probably also didn't want to do a code in the box like with Civilization 7, so they decided to go the game key card route, and that's why Sonic Cross Shadow Generations is not labeled as Nintendo Switch 2 edition, because you can't make a Nintendo Switch 2 edition on a game key card. But then I guess they didn't want to include like absolutely any upgrade path for people who own Sonic Frontiers on Switch 1 at all, so that's why they just labeled Sonic Frontiers on Switch 2 as Definitive Edition. Then you have Yakuza Kiwami, which was the only Yakuza game released on Switch 1, seemingly kind of as a test run to see if the Yakuza series could do well on a Nintendo platform. because the first test run they did was an HD remaster of Yakuza 1 and 2 on the Wii U only in Japan, and that didn't do well because guess what?
I didn't even know that existed, honestly. But also, most people didn't really know the Wii U existed either, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
But yeah, they put out Yakuza Kiwami 1 on Switch 1, and then they put out a bunch of the Yakuza games on Switch 2, including Yakuza Kiwami 1, which is just a Switch 2 game. It is not a Switch 2 edition. There's no upgrade path. Well, let's be fair here. If you already own the Switch 1 version of Yakuza Kiwami, you get a discount on the Switch 2 version of the game. That's it. Which, I mean, it's better than nothing. But here's the thing. I own the physical copy of Yakuza Kiwami for Switch 1 from Limited Run Games. And those physical copies are not included in this at all. And that's primarily because Limited Run Games distributed and produced those physical copies. Sega is like, those don't count. Feels like Sega's always kind of struggled with Switch 1 to Switch 2 upgrades. I mean, even with Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, the fact that they just farted out a Switch 2 version of that at the Switch 2's launch and just called it Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, and there was...
What's really gonna suck with that is that, like, we're inching towards a physical less future, right? Like the PS5 decision and all that. Not in PS5, just PlayStation decision around getting rid of discs, and Xbox is doing whatever Xbox is doing. Nintendo's the only one doing it. If the developer, the studio distributor themselves are not counting physical versions that are independently put out by third party, we'll call them manufacturers, I guess, like Limited Run or IM 8-bit, like those guys, it calls into question what those publishers constitute as legitimate versions of the game if they don't give you the discount upgrade. You know what I mean? That's concerning for a different reason. Again, we're just piling on the questions at this point.
There's like no upgrade path, and there really wasn't much reason to own that over Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. I'm like, what are we doing here? But then we have even more weird ones, like Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 1 and 2.
Start up. The Switch version runs like butt. I don't even know what Switch 2 runs like, but I'm also betting it runs like butt. Just straight up. Butt water. Both of these things.
Now, the Switch 1 version of that game is kind of weird because they definitely had to cut back a lot of stuff in that game. Like, instead of an open world, there's certain segments where the game has to kind of like fade in and out. So it's not as open as the traditional PlayStation and Xbox versions. So the Switch 2 version is pretty
open zone. Every house is its own zone.
Different in that regard, but somehow they made it work. You can upgrade from the Switch 1 version to the Switch 2 version, but it's really randomly hidden. I don't understand why. So you have to boot up the...
I remember this. I went through this with Jenna. You can only upgrade it. You can't do it through the eShop. You have to go into the game menu, find the upgrade process through the in-game menu that then takes you to the eShop. And you're probably wondering, why can't you just get it on eShop? No one knows.
The game, and then you can select an option that says activate the Switch 2 discount. It takes you to the eShop, and you see a free download screen exclusively here that you download there, and then you can access a $10 upgrade fee for Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 2. And then that will just straight up download the Switch 2 version of Hogwarts Legacy. The entire fucking game. Like, you don't need the game card for Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 1 anymore. So that's a strange loophole. The fact that you...
Yep. Weird, huh? Oh, God. Yep.
can literally just pop in Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 1 on your Switch 2, and then you can download the entirety of Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 2 to your system, and then you can just sell Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 1 at that point. You don't need it anymore. I don't know why they did that, and I don't know why you can still do that. They never took down this option. So you can completely upgrade Hogwarts Legacy from Switch 1 to Switch 2, and, you know, your save data transfers all over to all of that. I don't know why they don't just straight up call it the Switch 2 edition. Maybe because, like, it's fundamentally such a different game because, like, yeah, it's just the straight up, like, PlayStation and Xbox versions at that point. The Switch 1 version, while it's still pretty much the same game, it is still quite a bit different overall structurally. So maybe it's too much of a distinctive difference to be considered the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game. But I don't know. I mean, like, you look at something like Mario Brothers Wonder Switch 2 edition, and they add a whole ass section to the map. Star-Crossed World adds a bunch of stuff, but I guess those are more additive, if anything. It's not like they fundamentally changed the...
They did this with Mario Party 2, I think. They added like a whole thing. It's kind of like when they added Bowser's Fury, right, onto the game, the Super Mario 3D. You know what I mean? They like added a chunk to it. I feel like that's what they did with Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Overall gameplay experience. So I guess that's why Hogwarts Legacy isn't labeled as Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. But why the hell isn't Deltarune considered Nintendo Switch 2 Edition? That's just straight up on Switch 1 and Switch 2, and you can transfer the save data between the two. But, like, yeah, that's it. Like, what the fuck is the difference between the Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions of Deltarune? Especially when you have games like Hollow Knight getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and Deltarune on Switch 2 is just pretty much a resolution.
I didn't even know Deltarune had a different edition.
Why doesn't Deltarune get the Nintendo Switch 2 label, yet Hollow Knight does? Okay, well, I would assume Nintendo gets to tell you if you get to use the Nintendo Switch 2 edition label or not, which I find it strange that Deltarune doesn't have it because Deltarune shows up in Nintendo Directs all the time. Okay, so I guess it's Nintendo tells you can use it, and also if you yourself want to use it as the game developer / publisher. And I assume all of these games that get the Nintendo Switch 2 edition label, they went to Nintendo and they were like, hey, can our Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game have the Nintendo Switch 2 edition label? And Nintendo goes, sure. I assume with something like Deltarune, they just didn't really give a shit. Hogwarts Legacy, it might have just been because there was too much of a structural difference between the two versions of the game to actively label it as the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, but they still wanted to give you the option to upgrade to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition at a discount. And then something like Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, I assume they did not make it a Nintendo Switch 2 edition because they did not want to pay for the full game on a game cartridge, and they also didn't want to do a crummy little digital code in the box like Civilization 7 did. So they opted for it's just Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. That's it. There's no upgrade path, nothing. Just on a game key card. That's just...
I feel like they just want to pummel you in the face with Switch 2 branding because that's their new baby. You know? They really want to be like, did you know Switch 2 exists? You know what I mean? But also, in some circumstances, they also kind of want you to just buy the game again. Because that's like a double your money glitch that they can exploit pretty much freely, I think. I think I'm catching on. I think I'm understanding the marketing and the trickery that exists within this.
That's all they wanted to do. But then still, what the hell is Nintendo themselves really doing around here? You have something like Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which gets a free update, which adds content like Dixie Kong as a playable character and a new Turbo Time Attack mode, along with Switch 2 enhancements like a better resolution, faster load times. But then Xenoblade Chronicles X gets a Switch 2 edition, which enhances the resolution.
Okay, this was necessary, though. Do you know what I mean? This one was necessary. Like, very necessary. Xenoblade X looked rough, man.
not very well, mind you. But disregarding the quality of that upgrade, it fundamentally adds a better resolution and better frame rate.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country Returns HD added a better resolution and faster load times. That was free. Xenoblade Chronicles X was $5. Now, $5 is $5.
True.
It's nothing that crazy. But still, I mean, I guess they're charging for this because, like, oh, it's resolution and frame rate. Donkey Kong, it's just kind of like, well, the game looks nicer and clearer on Switch 2. Load times are faster, but it's kind of like, I mean, like, that's just kind of like a bonus thing they threw in. I think Xenoblade Chronicles X, regardless of the upgrade being kind of half-assed, it's still like a bit more transformative. But then Animal Crossing New Horizons adds mouse controls, a higher resolution.
Bro, they love touting all the mouse controls on Switch 2. They care way too much about the mouse controls, man. Not that big a deal. That does look a lot better, though.
That damn upgrade was also $5, which again, it's like, okay, $5, sure, whatever. But alongside that, they had a brand new free update with a bunch of new content. And
yes, that was confusing. You're paying for what is ultimately a superficial update, but you're getting content update for free. Which I guess I kind of appreciate, because some people maybe just don't care about graphical enhancements, and so they can just opt to not do that, and then they get the actual like meaty portion of the update for free. So I guess that's very pro-consumer. I guess. But it still is wildly confusing with how they've treated other versions of Switch 2 versions / updates.
you're charging me $20 extra for a fucking Jamboree TV?
Like that.
The point is, it's all over the place how Switch 1 games decide to upgrade to Switch 2 games. And it's just kind of funny to see absolutely how insanely complicated things can be at times.
It's not even complicated. It's just wildly inconsistent. There's like zero continuity in how they handle the different versions. And sometimes they're not even versions, they're just updates that utilize Switch 2 hardware. But they're not Switch 2 versions. It hurts my brain.
I would say it's definitely pretty funny considering I think Nintendo came up with the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition name to make things as uncomplicated as possible. But then just created like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. So what are you telling me? That means the original Definitive Edition is not the Definitive Edition. There's a Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. So
God, we've opened a whole new can of worms. Oh God, help us all. I didn't even think about this one. Oh my God, it's no longer definitive. Now it's definitive too.
you might as well call it Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, Definitive Edition. Oh my God, and then calling...
And they've actually added content to it too, that's the thing.
4 on Switch 2, the Nintendo Switch 2 Editions. Everywhere you look, you go on the title screen and it says that. And I'm just like, buddy, I bought this game on Switch 2. I only played it on Switch 2. It launched on Switch 2 and Switch 1 at the same time. Why do you have to constantly remind me that this is a Switch 1 game at its core? It launched simultaneously on both. It's just as much a Switch 2 game as it is a Switch 1 game. Why do I got this ugly-ass logo on the title screen I always gotta look?
It is ugly. Also, the box is ugly. It's a mess.
Okay, why doesn't the Switch 1 version of the game say Nintendo Switch 1 Edition all the time? Like, why not? You know what, Nintendo, you have inspired me to label more things. So today, I'm labeled as Scott Wozniak, pissy fuckhead. Which you get for free, but yesterday I was actually Scott Wozniak, just pissy fuckhead, which is strangely enough $10 to see me be like that. It's the same thing.
I like this guy, man. He freaking gets it, bro. That's crazy. Dude, I've got more questions than answers. Man, I don't I thought that by watching this and going through this exercise, we would come to a conclusion. And I find that I just have more questions than when I started with, and things are even murkier now than they were initially, and that bums me out. So, great. Great. Good video. He definitely made me feel seen. I feel heard and valid, and that like I'm not the crazy one. Because I kind of felt like the crazy one, and Nintendo's just like, well, you just don't get it. But really, I don't think Nintendo gets it. And I'm confused by their confusion and their inability to market to me what exactly the difference between a Switch and Switch 2 version is. And I think ultimately the answer is money and marketing. Also, marketing. I think that's it. I don't think it has to make sense. And I don't know that it ever will, frankly. But I'm here for it. GDK, thank you for the 36 months. That is 3 year on the dot. Hell yeah. Shout out. What a glorious day it is. Oh, dude. Scott the Woz gets me, man. He just freaking gets me, bro. Hmm. Chat, it's getting late. 2.5 hours deep. I didn't think that we would even have spent this much time, but evidently I'm just really good at yapping. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What should we do? Because I was gonna watch the Magic the Gathering Hobbit reveals, but I frankly don't know that we have the time for that tonight. Because I'd like to be out by midnight if possible. All right, we're calling an audible. We're calling an audible. We're gonna take a trip into the past, and we'll end on that tonight. That's the plan. That's what I think we should do, and so that's what we're going to do. Gamers, I have something non-gaming related, kind of. As you all know, big blockbuster movies happening this week. But sadly, last week Sam Neill of Jurassic Park fame passed away. Unironically, I was gonna look at this because I found it within my timeline of nostalgic deep dive video archives that I check out from time to time. So, both in honor of him and I guess just the sake of taking a little trip down memory lane. Of course, I didn't really know a whole lot of what was going around back then because I was, well, barely functioning on my own at that age. Uh, this is the premiere of Jurassic Park. This is the premiere of Jurassic Park. The premiere in 1993, which is like 33 years ago. How old do you feel right now? Leave it in the comment. What does that say? Boycott bovine growth hormone. Wow, that was back then too? Yeah, I told y'all I didn't know what was going on. I was a wee lad back then. I was barely in existence, really. Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. I remember that being a big deal though. After the fact. I also don't know that they ever really did anything with it. Shout out activism though. Alive and well, even in the 90s. Dude, that's a look. That's a dinosaur. We're very anti-biotech. Which does hit a certain nerve at a Jurassic Park premiere. If you think about it, that's kind of the lesson we were all learning with this movie is you ought not mess with science in that way. Or face the consequences, I suppose. Bro, that's the nicest theater they got. I feel like everything now is much more lavish and extravagant. You know what I mean? I feel like before they just kind of had what they had. Like this is just the movie theater. You know what I mean? It's just the theater. But we got a carpet, and so it's fancy now. Roll that bad boy out. We don't even have to get special inserts for this. We'll hang a banner. You know? It's simpler. I like that. A Virginia plate? Are we doxing right now? What's this guy's name? They're just showing up to do a job, bro. That's all they're thinking about. $3D. That kid in the movie? I haven't seen Jurassic Park in so long. I don't remember what the kids look like. And also, I feel like they're probably going to look a little different outside of the movie because they're in, like, suits and stuff. But they were very excited to learn that the kid's name was Joe. And then they told him to stand on the tape, and now they're taking his picture.
Have you seen the movie yet? No.
Yeah, get out of the way, family. That's crazy.
I've done 7, and this is my 6th.
Damn, bro is flexing. Okay, so he was in the movie. He's done 6. This is his 7th film. So it's a little confusing why he seems so awkwardly placed on the carpet and people taking pictures of him. But as a fellow Ginge, we look out for one another, so shouts out Joe.
So you're not. This is sort of old hat for you, isn't it? But this is a bigger
Still
movie.
exciting, yeah.
Did you like working with Steven Spielberg?
He was great. He's very organized, and I want to be a director when I get older.
You do, but you put.
Oh, really? Joe? Joseph Mazzello. Did you become a director? Okay. Okay. His directorial debut was in 2007. He graduated from USC School of Cinematic Arts and expanded into directorial work instead of just acting. Well done, Joe.
To do a lot of acting before that.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Well, they really want his picture. So he must have been the main kid, right? Shout out Channel 4. Dude, they're just on the street. They're just chilling. That's crazy. I feel like there'd be so much more security now. And also probably a lot more people. A more ambient crowd as well. They seem to know who he is. I have no clue who that guy is, though. Why is the kid still out here? Where are his parents? She was one of the scientist people, right? Oh, this is definitely from the 90s, huh? Some of this shit did not age well. I mean, I'm sure it's harmless, but like they don't know each other like that. They're coworkers. It's because he's a kid. That's weird. Oh no, she was another kid.
Well, some parts were very scary. I think the T-Rex was so frightening. And there was this one scene that I always remember when I think of it. It's with Joe that plays my brother and I in the Jeep.
I thought she was the blonde scientist lady.
And the T-Rex is up over us, crashing down and biting this thing, and we're screaming. And it's so scary.
I remember that part of the movie. Accurate. I think that dude's a senator.
I think it's wonderful. I think it sends a great signal worldwide. We're known what we do for our in movies, and this is a great sign.
That's a very senator-like answer. That dude definitely works in government.
I heard that. Senator, thank you.
Are you excited about having this premiere in Washington?
I am excited about seeing this
whole industry.
Well, if it doesn't.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's in Washington D.C. is where it's at. So that explains the Virginia license plate.
And I'm willing to be convinced tonight. Can't wait to see it.
Dude, there's like not a lot of security. That's kind of got me bugging a little bit. There he is. There's Sam Neill. The GOAT. I'm very excited to see if Jeff Goldblum's in this, which I'm hoping he is, because Jeff Goldblum is my GOAT. My GOAT. I pray nothing bad ever comes out about Jeff Goldblum, because I just feel like he is one of, if not the most wholesome Hollywood guy, who's just quirky and weird and fun-loving. Like, if you've ever seen him on any of the Disney specials, where he's like going around like the world according to Jeff Goldblum or something crazy like that, he's just such a good spirit, man. Oh God. It would be earth-shattering if something terrible came out about him. Also, I wish the series Chaos was better. But that's a different discussion. Talking about genetic engineering around the Jurassic Park premiere. Interesting. This gives a little more context to the guy in the cow suit that we saw on opening of this.
not at all worried about a Jurassic Park disaster. The real issue about genetic engineering is that the field of science is now entirely commercialized and has no oversight among the scientists themselves.
Wow! What a poignant and well-formed response. That's actually crazy. We should be letting the scientists lead the safety precautions around sciencey things. Imagine that. That's crazy. This is a poli-sci gold mine, dude. That's crazy.
Which I think is an area of concern to everyone, including many scientists. Because it's in so many areas, because it's so rapidly developing, it's not easy to see in what ways it could be well supervised. But what we've learned from the savings and loan disaster is that unsupervised human behavior often doesn't turn out well.
Oh my God. Can we send this to the AI tech bros in Silicon Valley? Can we do that, please? Holy shit, my man is spitting, dude. Oh my God. And the thing is, this is like 30 years ago. That's the crazy part. This is 3 decades prior. Oh my God. Oh. I've never felt more visible in our current time than watching a take from 30 years ago. Holy shit.
Thank you very much.
AP? AP in the building? Oh my God, please talk to Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum seemed like the type of guy who'd talk to you for hours.
I don't really know. I'd much rather have him be his friends than be running the government, so I don't quite get it. I think maybe people are just jealous.
Many celebrities felt a sense of freedom after Bill Clinton was elected. A sense of freedom from what? What do you think they felt free from?
I think he's...
Has it happened yet? Has it happened yet? Nope. It has not.
They know their age, and I think they really feel that he listens to them, and that's okay. He treats them like human beings, is what they want to do.
Ronald Reagan was an actor, and then why do you think they didn't feel any concept?
Maybe the age. That may be it.
Dude, there's so many political takes happening at a movie premiere. Like, hello, there he is. There's my goat. I expected like things that were relevant at the time that were pertinent to like themes in the film that's happening that we're watching about. So like the genetic engineering in biotech, like that kind of makes sense because it's like Jurassic Park. That's a major theme in the film. But they're just asking about Bill Clinton. That's crazy. No, it's acting.
And not as difficult as I expected in a lot of time because we did in fact have dinosaurs there, so we were very fortunate because I expected.
Oh my God, it's in Washington, D.C. though. It just clicked with me. It just clicked with me. That's why they're asking movie stars about politics. Oh, man. Alright, it's late, man.
You know, nothing there ever, so it was great. Did you have a lot of fun with the cast? Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone was extraordinary. It was one of those.
What the fuck was that? The fuck was that, camera guy? That was weird as hell. Dude. Okay, yeah, this is definitely from the 90s. Jesus.
Experiences where everybody kind of falls in love with each other and you have a great time making a movie. Any more plans to work with Mr. Spielberg? Not
Other Jesus Christ. Me Too hasn't happened yet, huh?
specific plans, but it should be a prerequisite for the President of the United States to be in touch with any representatives of
Dude, that guy, that looks like the dude from Peaky Blinders, low key. It's definitely not. Because I don't think that dude was alive yet. But, like, he's kind of got that face structure to him.
I know I would want my president to be in touch with film and art and you know, any work that's considered artistic. So I'm
That's why Bill Clinton played the saxophone. He's very in tune with the musical arts, just in general.
you know, he's aware of what the NASA's
Because Reagan fucked our economy. Can we just say it? Can we be real? That's why. Ugh, Democrat.
he was the head of the Screen Actors Guild. Obviously, some people accept it.
Maybe it meant something different back in the 90s. I don't know. I found both Democrats and Republicans super annoying. My goat! Bro, just the way he talks is so awesome. I love Jeff Goldblum to my core, bro.
The most I know actually about the science and all of the movie is this piece I read in Newsweek just now. You know, that's a nice piece. I just finished this movie called Lush Life with me and Forrest Whitaker and Kathy Baker.
Shout out. Not that he needs it, because that was like 30 years ago, but...
We play a couple of jazz musicians in modern day.
Bro, put the camera back on Jeff Goldblum. Show some respect.
No, I think this was made because of the script too. I think it was a wonderful piece, and I love the characters in it. A question
They're dragging him off. They're like, bro, you've been talking for way too long. Please, we're delaying the movie. Dude, this is some early 90s cinematography. It's giving home movie energy, and I love it. My God, that was it? We just cut off at that. Wow. Glorious. Oh, what a little trip down memory lane that was, man. What was our timer when we started? We ended at 6:50:10. We started at 6:35:20. So it was roughly like 15 minutes on the dot. That's crazy. Oh, I guess this is also 15 minutes. So it's like just straight footage. That's crazy. Wow. What an odd time. What an odd time. What a different time that was. Anyway, shout out Jeff Goldblum. Shout out Sam Neill. R.I.P. I love that things like this exist so that we can just kind of like go back and see them as a little time capsule. You know what I mean? It's really nice that this happens. I'm so glad the internet is archiving and preserving things like this. All right, chat. On that note, I hope you enjoyed our stream this evening. I had a lot of fun going live and spending time with y'all. We covered some news. We still don't know what the hell a Switch 2 edition is. But golly, did we have fun doing it, am I right? Dude, I'm just getting hit with 90s nostalgia stuff now. Some of this I don't even recognize. My brain wasn't even fully formed at that point. Anyway. Your boy is going to get on out of here. I appreciate y'all spending some time with me tonight. Another 3-hour stream in the books. We'll be back on Friday, I think. I don't know what time exactly. But we should be gaming. There should be gaming happening. I think Wednesday we're going to do like these little watch session things. Because I kind of like just taking a day in the week to like get caught up on news and stuff and videos and all that. So this may be a thing that we do more regularly. And I know 80% of y'all got me on your TV anyway. So, shouts out. But I'm going to be out of here. I appreciate y'all. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. See you later. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Bye-bye. See you later. Bye-bye.